3, 2, 1.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network.
There we go. All right, I'm gonna count down, say 3, 2, 1, and if you just wouldn't mind hitting record on your whatever you're using. And,
I use the Garage Band.
Yeah, I need to get GarageBand. I've heard that's really good, actually.
It's just crazy user friendly is all. I like Audacity for scrubbing and reducing noise and all the technical stuff, but recording I prefer GarageBand.
Interesting. I might have to try to get that. But all right, cool. Let's go. All right. 3, 2, 1, record. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is The Real Pineapple, as my cat is staring at me. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. And I have one of my, actually, I think you actually are the person who has been on the podcast, I think, the most. Either you or Nick over at the Afternoon Tune. Shout out to Nick and the crew over there. But I've got Canada's favorite son. I've got Bradley here. Brad, how you doing, sir?
Hello. Yes, very good. Very honored and humbled to be on the level of Nick in the Afternoon Tune as far as callbacks to the show. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you've been on like 3 or 4 times. And honestly, in the COVID era we're going through, that's been so I'm gonna brag on Bradley here for a moment here to explain why he is so qualified to be on this review here that we've got, because Bradley and I started talking kind of right around when the pandemic started, I'd say, probably like on a more regular basis. And one of the things I genuinely adore about Brad is that he has this almost computer-esque mind in the way he breaks things down, and so it leads to really engaging and fun conversation. And one of the things that we talked about a lot has been religion. And so I know myself, I grew up in church. I started going when I was 5, raised Christian, and I stopped going to church regularly around, I'd say 21, 22. And I just flat out don't go at all now. And I know for myself, one of the things that was kind of my breaking point was seeing how incredibly just when you almost like the whole term of seeing how the sausage is made, kind of once you see how it's made, it's like, oh, that's a bit of a bummer when I want to go eat this. So that's where I kind of fell with religion. So talking about The Righteous Gemstones season 1, because season 2 premieres tonight. Brad, kind of talk to me, man. Like, what is your kind of relationship with religion? I know we've kind of talked about this back and forth, but just to inform the people a little bit.
I'm definitely not a very good Christian, though I know the text pretty well. I know the dogma pretty well. My trifling ass, I'll call myself, since I was like a little kid, always just kind of saw it as a business. And I thought everybody did. You know, I'm definitely a socially awkward person. And I don't want to offend anybody by saying, you know, your faith's a business. Where I am right now with it, I don't go to any particular church regularly in any way. I can be friends with anybody that does, and I'm happy to engage with anybody that does. Not even in a prove this to me or don't prove this to me. Just as if this is important to you, then I think that's great sort of way. I try to be as chill as possible and respect as many people's beliefs as possible. I will go on several almost angry rants, though, when dogma is brought up as an institution. And that could lead to some awkward situations, to say the least.
That's fair. And I'll say for myself too, like just in the conversations we've had, one of the things that's been so interesting is to hear how kind of similar we kind of went through the process. Cause like I know myself, I was actually going to be a youth pastor. That's what I was going to college for. That was I visited a couple colleges in Southern California. That was the plan. And I remember kind of being almost like a like a pastor in training and doing it and going like, man, I'm preaching stuff that I'm not feeling. Like sex is always the big one. It's like, well, yeah, you're 15. Should you be having sex? Probably not, but just understand that MTV glamorizes being a teen mom. Like, don't do that, please. Like, that was always my big message. Like, please don't do this. Like, everything else is kind of like, well, that's not great. Like probably don't smoke weed before you're 18, but but the sex one was always the one I was like, just be careful. Cause I've talked about on the podcast myself. I waited till I was 20, almost 25, because honestly, as emotionally invested as I get in people, 15-year-old me couldn't have handled sex. 15-year-old me would have lost his mind if he had sex. So, and I understand that there are high schoolers who are way more mature than I was at that age. But
sure, same. Absolutely the same, yeah.
But at the same time, that it's one of those things that's overblown and like not talked about enough, because it's not like, I definitely remember the first time I had sex going like, man, that was over quick. And then, but oh man, I could have made a Hot Pocket in that time. but like,
perhaps you did.
Yeah, I was hungry afterwards. I was like,
yeah.
But it was one of those things where I remember kind of going, oh, this is it? Like, oh, all right. Like it was a big deal, but not a big deal. And so getting into Gemstones here, the thing that I love about this, and I think this applies to something like Scott Pilgrim, it's so hard to like point out the good in something, but also make fun of it. Like, it's a really hard line to balance. And this could come across so, pun kind of intended, preachy, as far as like, oh man, religion sucks, it's terrible, oh my God, how does anyone go to church? And it kind of gets into that, but at the same time, it does point out like the good that can be done with organized religion. Because I'll say myself, the sense of community was something I always actually appreciated going to church, like from good people, not, the fake ones. I actually always appreciate seeing, people I cared about in that setting and being able to, worship with people and all that jazz. That was something I always really liked. And good Christian music, which I realized a bit of an oxymoron, kind of like good Christian rap, but there is some good Christian music out there. Oh God, Jennifer Knapp comes to mind. If I'm going to go kind of old school, you talk about Mercy Me or Audio Adrenaline, or who else am I forgetting? What's his name? Stephen Curtis Chapman. That was a guy.
Yeah. People who don't even listen to Christian music listen to Chapman.
Yeah. So I mean, Jeremy Camp.
Big star. Yeah.
So I actually really like Jeremy Camp.
Same.
Met his wife, what's her name? Addie, I want to say. She's lovely and she's a great singer too. But the big singer that I'll always kind of refer back to is Jennifer Knapp, because she actually was getting like Grammy Award nominations and all this stuff. And then the church just ousted her ass after she came out as a lesbian. And the show definitely gets kind of into that. There's a point where Danny McBride's Jesse Gemstone is yelling at his kid. I think it's Abraham he's yelling at, and Abraham calls him the F word, that the one word we won't say on this podcast. He calls him that word, and he goes, don't use that language. I have friends who are homosexuals, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, you think you're being like so woke in this moment, and it's just like, oh God, Jesse. And Danny McBride, I think outside of someone like Jason Mantzoukas, he's so great at playing that person who's just a piece of shit, but they think they're a better person than they are. And I find that joke like really funny in itself. And this whole show should just be could be called Christians Are Hypocrites, because there's this point where Jesse is talking to his wife, played by Cassidy Freeman, Amber Gemstone. And he talks about how, I'm the man of the household. I can't believe you're lying to me. And and the whole crux of this show is that Jesse was doing blow and engaging in voyeurism with some of his friends while they're at this Christian conference. And I will say, Brad, and we can kind of get into this now because, again, it's us. I remember my first scandal at a church that I was a part of, or I remember hearing, because fun thing about churches, they're very gossipy. And I remember hearing about like an affair happening. I remember that being like a big deal, like, because you go, oh, we're supposed to be held to a higher standard and all that. And I think, to your point, I think that's where the business part comes in, because I'm sure you've dealt with stuff like that and you're like, oh man, like, this is a big deal and it's just swept under the rug. Like, I mean,
sure. Yeah.
So like, were you able to relate to the show, like, in that sense, or?
Yeah, actually, I've never been to a Coke party or rented hookers with smelly titties who need to get them out of my face. I didn't want those in my face. Danny McBride is so great, by the way.
He's so great in this.
But my brother is more like, he's incredibly faithful and devout. I love him to death for it. I think that can improve your life tremendously if it's about you and your personal relationship with being a better man, whether that's through Jesus or for what have you. His is through Jesus. I think he's amazing. But we've had that conversation where he was more like Adam Devine playing Kelvin Gemstone. Like, well, what were you doing those horrible things? What about Jesus? What about what Dad taught us? And Jesse Gemstone, Danny McBride, responding with, what are you talking about? Stop being such a loser wimp. No one actually believes that stuff. And
yeah,
pretty brutal. And that's what I've noticed is so honest about this show is Jesse and even the sister. What's the sister's name? Judy Gemstone, played by Eddie Patterson.
Yeah, she's great.
They honestly could give a shit about Jesus or about fellowship or about any of it. But they love that they're gemstones and they have the funds, the trusts, the estates, all of it. They love the life of a wealthy foundation that their father, uncle, and mother built. While poor Kelvin Gemstone is all in on believing in the faith. And that is such an interesting concept.
I think Kelvin is the character I relate to the most because, because for me, as I mentioned, wanting to be a youth pastor, like that was like my passion. That was my goal. And what kind of shattered that is when I was 18 and I was starting in college, I had a term paper I had to do for my English class. And so it was about organization. So I picked my church. And so I listed out all these questions like, how long have you been at the church? Which families are you close to? And then I kind of asked them, some spicy questions like, hey, like, are there certain people who donate more who are given, like better parking spots or priorities on retreats or, things like that. And I had multiple parents or the people who I was asking flat out go, I choose not to answer this question, or I'm not comfortable answering this question. So once I started digging a little more and kind of putting some dots together, it was like, oh shit, this fucking sucks. Like this is a thing. And Kelvin, I felt so bad for Kelvin because Kelvin is not involved in this shit at all. Like Jesse's blackmail. Like Jesse, like that was the part for me that's actually really depressing but accurate, because Jesse gets himself into this whole mess. And I will say, I think it's episode 3. I think it's the end of episode 3 where their son, Skylar Gizonsto, who plays Gideon, shows up because he's going ahead and blackmailing the Gemstones. He's the one who's actually the idea man on this. Because
cool twist too.
Yeah, it's him and Scott MacArthur who plays Scotty. And I want to talk about that relationship real quick because Scotty, okay, how do I want to phrase this? The fact that this relationship is in this show, I love, because it's one of those relationships where you go, I feel like Scotty's in love with Gideon, and I feel like it's pretty obvious. And the more the show goes on, the more it's like, wow, Scotty is in love with this dude, and he kind of hates himself for it, because he treats Gideon like shit, like at every fucking turn. And there is this point where they flash back and they explain, I think it's episode 5, episode 6, pardon me, I think, where they flash back to the whole conference where Gideon got blown off by Jesse in a real dick way, by the way.
Absolutely.
They're supposed to go to dinner together, and Gideon shows up at the room, and Jesse and the rest of the people are getting drunk from the church, and he's like, dude, you bailed. And it's one of those things where I went, Jesse could have squashed, like it's almost an Iron Man 3 moment where where Tony leads Guy Ritchie onto the roof. It's like, if you just not been an asshole, this wouldn't have come back on you in any way, shape, or form. But you had to take the douche road, and Jesse just goes, oh yeah, you don't want to have fun, get the fuck out of here. I'm like, dude, what the that's so unnecessary. And even Gideon kind of gives him this look like, dude, like, you could have just said I'm sorry. And so when Jesse's getting blackmailed, I went, yeah, dude, this is kind of on you. Like, I don't like the act itself. I mean, do whatever you want, consenting adults, but just that's and I think you being a parent, and I was really curious to get your thoughts on this specifically, because not being a parent, I'm sitting and watching this going, this is one of those parenting layups where it's just like, all you have to do is the very obvious thing that's right in front of you, and this all goes away. And Jesse doesn't do that. And I went, as a parent, I could imagine you just going like, God damn it. Like, really, Jesse?
He's a very shitty dad. But what makes it such a sad thing is, and what Gideon, I feel like, has kind of seen this going on for a while, is the selfless pastor who wants to be like Christ actually would blow off his son to have a Coke party with his buddies. And that's definitely, counterproductive to how anybody should live their life. For one thing, blowing off your son for a Coke party, that's horrible. But the fact that he was supposed to be a better example, and that's his job, to be a better example, he does this to Gideon, it makes it even more heartbreaking. And honestly, I don't really think Gideon's revenge is all that bad. What makes Danny McBride such a genius is when his character finally realizes he has to do the right thing, makes it so much worse. And not just for himself, but for everybody around him. He like, it's like when people say, well, I guess we better blow up the house when they think it might be haunted. And the heart-to-heart he eventually has with Gideon, I don't know how much spoiler talk you want to get into.
Let's go. We're full spoilers. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I thought that was incredibly authentic and honestly very moving. When he, alone with Gideon in the conversation, actually lays down what happened from his point of view and why it was wrong that he did that to Gideon, and that he was truly sorry. Now, the next scene, him going public display PR campaign face, that was a riot, because it was not authentic
at all.
It was passing blame.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's important to actually have that. It kind of summed up the whole, I think, thesis of the show, that if you're going to have a personal relationship with anybody, your wife, your kids, your brother, it needs to be personal and vulnerable. If you're throwing it all on display for everyone to see, it's not going to be authentic. And that's what these big theologian super churches come across as, like a dance and show and fake.
Yeah.
Which is what he totally did when he was like, okay, I'm doing the right thing here. I'm going to tell the truth about what happened. All y'all that are here, this is your fault more so than mine. But we got to come clean. And like, what a piece of crap.
Which, by the way, I'm so happy you brought that up because he gave the men in his church, the ones that he put in danger, absolutely no heads up on that. So they're there with their partners
and their kids.
And their kid. Like, oh man, that's something those kids are be talking about in counseling like 2 years from then. Just like,
absolutely.
And I felt so like, those kids, I just went, oh, that fucking sucks. And McBride's Jesse's wife, Amber, so the show goes out of its way to show her like the compound they live on is fucking absurd. Like, it's got a Ferris wheel and like moats and like a zoo. I'm just like, geez, like Jesus Christ, huh? Like, what? Like, how much shit do you need? But Amber has a shooting range, and Amber's a fucking badass. Like, first off, like, goddess. Like, the moment I saw her, even my partner was like, God damn. I was like, right? I was like, Amber's fucking hot.
Couldn't take any shit from him.
And so the thing is, she does, though. And that's what I actually kind of like, is that
the
show does play off that whole, because there's this point where they're at not Sizzler, like a Cracker Barrel type place, I guess you'd call it, like a fancy Cracker Barrel, I guess. And John Goodman's Eli Gemstone, who John Goodman, I don't think we give him enough credit for being like the incredible actor he is, like on a ridiculously consistent basis. And I'm just happy for the dude that he got this role, because he fits in like a glove on this show. It's kind of surreal. But one of the things that tripped me out about Eli is that the show gets into the whole concept of like multiple churches in close proximity to each other, because there's this other guy or this other pastor in the Gemstones decided to buy this lot like in that town. And the pastor, rightfully so, is like, hey, like these people are already, like these people were already saved and spoken for and everything. And Eli just looks at him and goes, yeah, I don't fucking care. I want more money. Basically, I just went, damn, that's savage. But honestly, not inaccurate, because you think about how many, I know, I don't think you've been, but Texas is like Starbucks, like everywhere, in the sense that there's a church on every fucking corner. It's really absurd, honestly. Like, there are so many churches in Texas, and one of the ones I went to was one of those kind of mega style churches. And there's a great joke in here where the Gemstones have their own coffee, Gemstones blend. And I was just like, God damn it. But to your point though, Bradley, it goes right back to the whole church being a business thing. And I was dying laughing at that bit, because I went, yep, this is exactly how it is. But Amber shoots Jesse at a point, and it's one of those things I went to jump back to what you're saying. Jesse and Gideon have this incredible heart to heart, and Jesse's very honest. And Amber gave him multiple times to go ahead and come forward with that shit, and Jesse just keeps digging himself deeper and deeper. There's this point they have a high-speed chase with Scotty and Gideon, and Jesse's like, oh yeah, these are what do you call them? Like the like highway games or something, like highway pranks, I think is what he calls them. Like, oh yeah, is this one of our many elaborate highway pranks that we play with each other? And I'm sitting there going, Amber can't be this dumb. Like, she clearly knows something is going on. And when he lays everything out and she loses her shit, as any partner would, I went, yeah, dude, this is really on you. So when she throws him out at the end of the season, I went, I'm not surprised at all, and this is the least you deserve, considering like how you fuck your family over. And I don't know. I don't think Jesse's supposed to come across as sympathetic, like really,
no, not at all. I don't think so at all either.
But there are just these points where you're like, man, is he like he is kind of like the Tony Stark in the sense of, you really are just the villain of your own story. How much sympathy can I actually have for you? Because what's his name, Gideon, leaving because they established that he goes to LA to become a stuntman. I think that relationship being so like severely damaged, it doesn't feel like he's being a dad to the other two at all, because the one kid hates him And then I can't think of his other kid's name, but I don't know. They both seem kind of like passive, just not inspired, just kind of sad kids, honestly.
Yeah, like he has no idea how to parent these kids. Like his kid that constantly calls him names and says, "I'm going to go join a cult. I'm going to worship Satan. I'm going to say you inspired me to do it," or just mean things like that. He's like, "You shut your mouth. You shut your whore mouth," to his kid.
to his child.
Yeah, that's the kind of engagement that child wants when they act in that way, and he's just giving it to the child. So it's so funny that he's so bad at being a parent. And the mom is, she's passive because, and I honestly don't know much about this other than the horror stories you hear. What the Christian women are programmed to be, not the right word, I'm sure, but passive to their spouse's will or something. Is that what was going on there?
So I'm happy you brought that up because that's the next place I wanted to go. It's very much that, that subservient aspect where it's like, you're the trophy wife. It's very Stepford wife-ish. Like you stand next, you stand behind your man, literally and figuratively. And that weirdly, and I don't know what this says about just the relationships in general, but the most normal relationship is shown in episode 5, where we take a break from the current storyline and go back to the 80s, where John Goodman's Eli is married to Jennifer Nettles' Amy Lee, and we get to see her in the flesh because she's died by the time the show picks up. But something that I love about the relationship is it's going to sound backhanded, but I think you know what I mean. It's about as progressive as a Christian relationship probably got in the 80s.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like she's actually, she actually has her own shit going. She's actually, preaching, which that is something, by the way, like as far as a woman pastor, that is something you like never freaking see, at least like on the main level. Like they might do, a small group or lead a women's group, but as far as a woman pastor being, head or like of the church, that's something you never see. Actually, I'm racking my brain. I don't know if I've ever seen a female pastor lead a service on the main. Oh God, that's just making me sad. Sorry, I just had that real, like, I haven't seen it enough for it to register. That's all you need to know right there. But
wow.
But so getting into this episode, because this is maybe my favorite episode of the whole season, is episode 5, because and I think we've talked about it. I know you've been with your partner for a while. Eli's one of those people that once his partner died, he just went, oh, well, I'm just going to be, a good pastor, basically. And it's actually really heartbreaking because he clearly never found someone else. He clearly misses her. And like, I don't know, it's like the most functioning normal relationship in the show. We only get an episode. Which is so intense. But that episode gives us more context to one of my favorite actors working right now in Walton Goggins' Baby Billy Freeman. And Walton Goggins, first off, justified the Shield. He's stars on the show Unicorn right now, which is a surprisingly good show. But Walton Goggins, though, I don't know if I hate him or Jesse more. I think I hate Baby Billy more just because of the way he treats Amy Lee. Because some of the shit he pulls with Amy Lee being his sister is such evil, petty shit. I kind of hate you for taking advantage of her like that. But yeah, kind of your thoughts, sir, on Baby Billy.
I think it's who was Tammy Faye married to again? I think it's making fun of that guy. Like he thought he was the star of their worship routine. It's like, Baby Billy, you're not. It's your sister. People are coming to see your sister, dude.
Jim Baker.
Jim Baker, yeah. And you need to get over it, Baby Billy. And the fact that he still goes by Baby Billy into his like 50s, what a freaking knob.
Yeah, who is he? Kid Rock? Like what the?
And
yeah, that's right, Kid Rock. I'm talking about you, motherfucker.
Every flashback we get of him too, he was a horrible influence on not just his nieces and nephews, but everybody he talks to. He's like pretty much a snake in the grass. Everything the Bible warns you about the wolf in sheep's clothing, he's practically creeping on people. Yeah, and is all like, hey, I'm actually a wolf. This is just sheep clothing. Come drink this beer with me. To like, he's total creep. And Walton Goggins is always masterful performance. With John Goodman, I think it's pretty awesome how much he loved his wife. And that's his whole character in this, is missing his wife. And I thought the show spoke very profoundly again, how everyone around him was like, Dad's not doing well. He's still sad. Instead of grieving with him or getting him real help or telling him that it's okay to be sad, anything, they see this depression that he's going through as a problem, and a problem to the fellowship, because church people are supposed to be happy. And that sucks. And I like that Danny McBride is attacking that particular taboo in this show.
Canada, I love you, because I have that literally noted right here. It's talking about mental health in the church. Because, I've talked about this on other recordings, but I lost my dad right before I was heading into high school over that summer. And that was something I heard from more people than I should have at the church. Like, oh, you're the man of the house now. You're the man of the house. And just like having that burned in my brain and going and talking about it in counseling, going, yeah, that really didn't help, my mental health at all as far as trying to move past this. And so Eli, to your point, being the head of the family and everything, being, the head pastor and all that, there's a lot of pressure on him, and he just kind of buries everything. But there are these points where you just kind of see him looking off, and it does break your heart. Like, there are these points where he's talking to like a picture of her, talking to the statue, the little memorial he has set up of her, and your heart really just breaks for him, because you see how much, to your point, that he loved her. The episode where we go back in time, I love that episode because there's a song called Misbehavin', and I fucking hate that song because it's so easy. Like, it's one of those songs I'm humming now. It's like, fuck. Like, it's so catchy.
It's catchy, yeah.
It's catchy as hell. It's a fucking bop, but it's there's a whole tap dance number and all that. And Baby Billy tells her, basically, hey, I'm broke, and if we can't go on tour and make some money, I'm gonna go ahead and sell our parents' land. Like, he flat out tells her, if we can't go on tour, I'm selling the land. And so Amy Lee and Eli tell Baby Billy that they're having another kid, when I think they said that she wasn't able to have another kid. I think they said, if memory serves, but they go ahead and kind of, she goes ahead and throws that out there. And so Baby Billy gaslights her into going ahead and doing that shit in such a vile way. She goes ahead and signs the contract. And then they're all at that fancy Cracker Barrel. And he goes ahead and tells her, oh yeah, I already sold off like almost 30 acres anyway. And it's like, oh, you motherfucker. And I love this because honestly, Brad, I saw like this moment. I was like, oh, Bradley would do that shit. But Eli has this look where he looks at Baby Billy. He's like, motherfucker, I'll end you right now. Like,
and John Goodman can look very scary if he wants to, as surprising as that is.
Like, when
he's such a chill guy, but yeah,
I can see you doing that, because when that switch flipped, I was like, oh fuck, because
someone's gonna die. Yeah,
even when they perform Misbehavin', Baby Billy takes a couple shots at Eli, like, oh, I think Eli needs to sit down. Eli laughs like, ha ha ha, and the moment that laugh stops, he's like, dude, like, just slip up once and I will end you. But Goodman is able to tell so much storytelling just through his looks, because he looks like he wants to kill Baby Billy at first, and then he looks proud of his wife, and then he looks sad because, oh my god, my pregnant wife is going on tour, and that's all within a 3-minute song. It's like, wow, you got all, like, it's crazy. You got all these emotions in this little bit.
No, I agree 100%.
So as far as other stuff I want to talk about, because like a few more things I want to touch on. BJ, played by Tim Baltz, pardon me, and Edie Patterson's Judy, they're together. And Judy, in the flashback episode, and I'm blanking on the term, Judy is watching Jesse get in trouble, and she says, "Oh, I like watching Jesse get in trouble. It makes my light twitch or my fox twitch," or it's something about talking about her vagina. And it was one of those things where now, and I think you probably know this, when kids are making jokes like that early on, that's usually a sign of some assault. And so I'm sitting there going, this is a show about church. You talk about how that's an issue. Oh God, it's someone in the church. Oh, like that's where my brain spiraled to. And I was like, oh, that actually, unfortunately, because she talks about that story later on when she was in college and she fucked her professor or whatever.
Yes. She manipulates her professor. That was a very uncomfortable story.
And so honestly, Brad, like, I know I just talked about that molestation thing kind of in jest, but matching it up with that story, it kind of makes sense. And I was like, oh, that's really tragic. I wonder if they'll actually address that in full. But I was like, eek.
Like the person she told was like, wow, I really wish you would have told me that like years ago. That kind of would have put a lot of things into perspective.
Because Judy's insane. Like, let's just call it straight. Like, she's brutally insane. She is nuts. Like, there's this point
so angry and manipulative,
and just like abusive to BJ. Like, straight up abusive. Like,
that's the only way she knows how to be for some reason.
And BJ, God bless him, he is trying so hard to just be a good partner. Like, Kelvin gets this ridiculous soda machine, like one of the ones you'd get at Wingstop, where it has like 100 flavors and all that. And he gets her this with like the seltzer kit with like like 5 different syrups. And I'm like, obviously not the same thing in any remote shape or form, but he's trying to be supportive. And I'm like, dude, that's sweet. And she's just busting his balls literally and figuratively at points. Like, he like slaps his nutsack. I'm like, ow, don't do that. Like, and he's taking it. And he's so uncomfortable that he gets a nose job like a day before Sunday service. It's like, oh my God, this family is so so toxic. But I've had a few crazy women come through my life. Remind me to tell you about the time someone put a curse on me, but that's a whole nother podcast. Wow. Fun story, but I digress. But Judy and BJ break up, and she loses her shit with this shopping cart, and that is one of the most intense things I've seen in a couple of years, where she basically street fighters his car with a shopping cart. And I'm sitting there like, that's really aggressive. Like, most people don't react like this. But so she goes to jail, and I'm sure this is a thing. This is one of the things I'm bringing this up specifically to talk to Brad about. Eli goes into the police station with like a wad of bills and just passes it to someone. And no paperwork process. They just open the door for Judy and let her out. And my first thought was, how many times have you had to do that?
No idea. Yeah.
Because that seemed way too easy. Like, he was like, oh, all right, here we go again. Like, $2,000. All right, here. Like, but you saw that wad of bills. Like, that was at least $1,000. Easy. And so it's like, all right, then what? Like, what else? Like, what else has this family done that's so? Fucking tragic.
Yeah. Well, like her birthday flashback, she is the worst, most exaggerated, I think, kind of spoiled. But the actress does such an amazing job, as well as the actors around her scene partners. But this is entitlement times. Like it's like 1,000 times those crazy videos on YouTube where someone's Sweet 16 is ruined and the birthday girl just flips the F out. It's like 1,000 times that all the time with Judy.
I have a couple friends that are well off. I've definitely been to a birthday party like this where I'm like, so I'll be real. It was eerie to watch that scene because I've seen kids go, I have this, and throw the gift back. Or, I mean, you're a parent. You're a parent, Brad. You've seen kids throw
on a throne. She was on a throne, right? It was built specifically
like,
for her.
Yeah, with a crown. Like it's like, and the creepiest looking fucking clown since Pennywise. I was like, oh, because there's nothing creepier than like an old clown. You know what I mean? Because then they look like they belong in like a Rob Zombie movie, and it's like, oh, please get away from me. Like it's like that old clown was fucking creepy. Number one, and number two, the fact that, and this is one reason I love someone like Walton Goggins. It takes, okay, we can agree it takes a special piece of shit to go ahead and be that shitty to your sibling who's pregnant in the way that he is. But to go ahead and get your nephew drunk who's like 11, it's like, it's so
that it was his right to get drunk as well. Like he was doing something good. Yeah. Goggins is dreadful in this, as in bad. He's great as a performer, but he might, that's a tough call. I think he's a little bit worse than Jesse.
It's close though.
But like, it's close. Yeah.
He gets Jesse flat. He gets him wasted. And it's one of those things where you sit back and you go, it's funny that we were talking about it in our group chat yesterday, how you were talking about how much you hate Gail from Bob's Burgers. Like that's basically Baby Billy in this.
Yeah.
and there is just that point where you would just go, we just need to cut you off because you were just like you were causing way too much drama. But I love the complexities of the relationships in here. If I have a complaint about the show, and it's a bit nitpicky, but I thought everything I wish there were some more loose threads heading into the new season tonight. Everything kind of just wrapped like, and that's not a bad thing, but
this was clearly written like he thought he was only going to get one go at it.
Exactly. And it's just, so that's why going into this new season, I'm kind of like, all right, where are we kind of even, jumping off from? So that is something I was kind of like, I would have liked a little more, but to your point, this might have been something that HBO's like, we don't know if this will hit or not, even though we've done a lot of business together. So, he might have felt the pressure to just wrap everything up just in case. But I will say Scotty's end was something that made me laugh. Like it's funny, but it's a dark ass ending for Scotty. like that was something I was like, holy shit. Okay. Yeah. I was not expecting that at all. And so, okay. Actually, that was my second complaint. Okay, so I understand money can make things just, go away. I completely understand that. But there was just the way that the whole murder of Scotty and all that money being stolen in the van, that all just kind of goes away. No investigation or anything. And I know they kind of bring it up. He's like, oh, like the cops asked me what I wanted to do, but I'm like, there was a murder that took place that doesn't just go away ? So that was something I was a little peeved by, because it did seem a little unrealistic that would just go poof. But
I agree. I really think it was supposed to conclude with Baby Billy making off with the money and we never see him again. And it's up in the air what would happen to Jesse and the Gemstones with this murder hanging over their heads. But second seasons, who knows when it got renewed? I'm guessing before the finale was written. But yeah, that was very quick cleanup. The whole Haiti trip was kind of quick cleaning up too, to try and open up new threads. What's the Adam Devine's gemstone called?
Oh, Calvin.
Kelvin, yeah, like his sudden like, I think God talks to me, but I also think Satan talks to me. I thought that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. When I looked it up, it's actually a real condition, and
it is
shocking. I had no idea. So I do want to say, dang it, where's my note? Here. Adam Devine, is that how you say his name?
Adam Devine, yeah.
This is my favorite performance of his. And I don't think it's even close. Maybe I need to watch more movies or shows with him in it, but I think Kelvin Gemstone is his best character and performance.
So I think it's definitely his best character. I'm a huge Workaholics fan, so I
haven't seen Workaholics.
Workaholics is fun. It's dumb as shit. Like it is, like it's basically stoner Entourage, but these guys are pieces of shit, and the show knows it. Unlike Entourage, which is what always irritated me about Entourage, but that's a whole other thing I could go into. I really like Adam Devine. Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates is one of those movies that I know it's bad and I don't care. Like it just makes me laugh. It's stupid as shit, but it's a movie that I really enjoy.
Cast too, yeah.
But then he also did what was that one move the computer Jexy, and I fucking hated Jexy.
I haven't seen it. No, I couldn't even get through the trailer.
It will not make you like Adam Devine anymore. But I do agree with you. I think this is actually his best acting performance. To your point, though, they do kind of bring up that Jesus is talking to me, Satan is talking to me, in like the bottom of the ninth. It is kind of like, all right, this shows up in like the second to last episode, and that's kind of weird, a weird placement for it. Yeah, like because they could have easily had just like it begin to be a thing after they run over the people with their car. Like that actually would have been the better time to go ahead and throw that in and be like,
oh my gosh, that stunt too. It literally looks like a stuntman is running away from a car and gets plowed.
That was so brutal. Like
it's got to be some kind of digital editing effect. That's my guess. I haven't looked further into it, but it's an incredible stunt either way.
So that was actually the other note I did have here. Scotty is able to get his partner out of the hospital with such ease. I just went, all right, this is there's no fucking way. Like that hospital would be like he would be arrested for that shit.
Yeah, that's literally stealing a person.
Yeah, like there's no so again, there are a few issues with the show, but nothing that was super world breaking. But the murder thing and then the thing with Kelvin are I would say are probably my biggest gripes. But independent of that, though, I can't believe we're getting a season 2. I'm happy we're getting a season 2. Same. But I'm excited. I'm really excited. And as far as a grade for this, I think this is a solid A. So I was gonna go fan-fucking-tastic just for how much I laughed, but I'll be honest, the murder thing, even like on a first rewatch, I was like, so yeah. A. I think an A is fair.
No, and I agree with you. I was worried towards the end after Jesse Gemstone is having his epiphany about what he did to his son and how it was wrong, that it was going to lean heavy into, and now he'll turn his life around, like how Adam Sandler comedies end. But it doesn't. One of my favorite jokes is in the finale where he's watching Atreyu try and save his horse from the Swamp of Despair from Neverending Story.
Yeah.
And he's laughing. Like he's laughing at that scene. Danny McBride, there's no time where he wants you to think this is actually a good person. And I really respect him for that in his writing. Yeah, so I'm going to go A as well. And I'm excited for this season 2. Hopefully it does something I think the first season might have done and said everything there needs to be said. But again, there's a lot of stuff I don't know about these mega churches. Certainly not about the dissociative cognitive hearing voices issue that a lot of individuals have and think it's a God thing. So that was fun to look into. But yeah, excited for season 2.
Well, yeah, that's like the whole like speaking in tongues thing too. Like it's like in that same.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole like
that's wild.
That there's a lot of avenues to it. like it's one of those things where even explained to my partner, because she like went to church a little bit as a kid, but just getting to the ins and outs of it, she was like, this is a lot. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, trust me. Like, if you don't grow up in it, it seems like it's a lot. But
yeah,
but I don't know. Like, to your point, I'm excited for this for season 2. Hopefully we can review season 2. They're adding Eric Andre to the cast and Jason Schwartzman, who I love both of them very much. So I'm
same.
Eric Andre belongs on a show like this. to be honest, like this is like it just seems like.
I think it'll be like his bread and butter. What he brings us.
Yeah, have you ever watched the Eric Andre show? Or
I've only seen the most popular clips, but yeah. And I guess he's got like a timeless meme about shooting a guy in a chair, right?
Yeah, but like he's just he's insane. In this show, I feel like it almost will ramp up the insanity, which actually saying it out loud sounds wonderful and horrifying at the same time. So I think that's what they're going to end up doing. But I'm very curious to see Eric Andre. Season 2 premieres tonight, so by the time you hear this, season 2 would have probably already premiered. But Bradley, thank you so much for being on, sir. I appreciate you being on again. Hopefully, we can review season 2. Bradley, tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, of course. Bradley Martin. I'm Bradley of Martin, no E, at what is it? Whatever the Twitter handlers are.
Yeah.
I'm almost 40, so that's why that got fumbled.
Well done.
And you can hear my thoughts on movies and reviews on Eye on the Prize during awards season, and also the Screener Squad. Those are at oneofus.net.
Perfect. And everyone, thank you so much for listening. You can check out yours truly on the Twitter at jhunterrealpineapple. I'm actually starting to use my Twitter more. So if you want to hear random thoughts about music and movies and wrestling, go on my Twitter. You can go ahead and find The Real Pineapple wherever you listen to podcasts, SoundCloud, Apple and Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, to name a few. Don't forget to like both our gaming page, both our pages on Facebook at The Real Pineapple and Real Pineapple Games. And don't forget to find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/jhunterrealpineapple. And you can follow me on TikTok at Black Shazam. We've got reviews coming up this week. I'm prepping for best and worst of that. Those reviews will be live on February 7th. Best and worst of will drop on the same day. I've got reviews coming up this week though for Tick Tick Boom, which I have not seen. I've heard it's great. I'm excited to watch it. I'm really excited for Tick Tick Boom. But we'll have reviews up for that, as well as for the Tragedy Macbeth and Licorice Pizza coming up for you guys real soon. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. Bradley, again, sir, thank you so much for being on. Stay safe out there, everyone. Wear a mask, get your shot, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, you can hit stop. Thank you.
All right, that was fun.
That was fun. And that flew by. I looked up, was like, oh shit, I told him 45. Sorry.
No, you said, well, I think I have a text somewhere around here that said between 40 and 50.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.